If you want to drive more e-commerce revenue without increasing your ad spend, and you want the revenue today, not in a year, it's email and CRO. That's how you do it. Reconvert customers from long ago and turn existing site traffic into revenue. The cheapest customer is the customer you already have. So if you want help with this, come to pilothouse.co, fill out the lead form, and ask to speak to me directly.
In the inbox late night, glowing screen, see the light. Email, everything feels alright.
5 customer retention metrics I track and 1 that I don't. A good customer retention program often has email metrics go down. An email program that looks good might actually be bad for customer retention. It's the world's best email and retention podcast, and I'm your host, Jordan Gordon. We are a member of the DTC network of podcasts and the philosophical home of the Pilot House email and customer retention team. If you want to make the sweet nectar of low-cost revenue a large part of your digital ecosystem, then follow us on your favorite podcast app today. This time we're going to discuss 5 customer retention metrics I track and 1 that I don't. And you may be surprised at the 1 that I don't. So customer retention is the other half of the coin when it comes to email. We talk about email metrics, what email metrics are good. And if you've been listening to the pod, you've heard me say before, a good customer retention program often has email metrics go down. And an email program that looks good might actually be bad for customer retention. Reasons behind this: if you're retaining customers, you're speaking, by definition, speaking to people who are not currently engaged, not currently shopping. So those addresses have structurally lower click and open rates. But when you convert them, it's unambiguously good for your business. You're increasing LTV, you're converting stuff that's not currently in your ads funnel, and you are driving up your domain revenue without driving up your ad cost, improving your marketing expense ratios, and unlocking new budget to grow your business. So it's important to have email metrics. I think about email metrics more like minimum thresholds. Look, the open rate, if your open rate is below 35, you've got a real problem, right? Klaviyo, talking about Klaviyo metrics, different people interpret open rates differently. Click rate below 0.5%, you got a real problem, right? But look, if your click rate is drifted to like 0.88% and your clicks are up 45% year over year, that's a win, right? So watch out for rates. It's absolutes drive results. Rates just kind of tell you around where you are. And when it comes to retention metrics, if you are going to try to reach new people, try to reach hard to reach addresses, and drive down your email metrics, it's fine as long as you see benefit in your retention metrics, which means the retention metrics should be the source of truth for your email and SMS program. Okay? So that said, let's start by just talking about, we're going to do 5 retention metrics I follow and 1 I don't. And let's just start by talking about the 1 I don't. I do not follow repeat rate in Shopify. You might find that surprising. And this isn't just some hot take, I don't even follow the main one, blah, blah, blah. I actually don't follow the number. And the reason is the number is a zero sum. So if you have a high repeat rate, it might just mean you're doing a bad job at driving first-time buyers. In fact, a high repeat rate it's like, well, why is your repeat rate so high? Shouldn't you be bringing in new customers, right? Why are you leaning so much on repeat business? And the inverse, of course, right? Low repeat rate doesn't necessarily mean you're doing a bad job at driving retention. Might just mean you are spending a ton of money on ads right now. So the number itself sends so many false signals that I rarely look at it. When I first glance at an account, I will look at it to be like, you just like get some kind of point of reference, but that's pretty much it. I don't trend it. I don't try to improve it. The repeat rate is, broadly speaking, dead to me, right? I would never target it. Okay, then, what are the 5 retention metrics I would target using as a source of truth for my email and SMS program to judge if the direction of my email metrics were improving my business? Well, how about just repeat buyers year over year? That's pretty good. How do you find your repeat buyers in Shopify? You click on the retention rate, the repeat rate on your kind of Shopify analytics dash, and you can mess around with that screen and kind of look at, it'll show you repeat customers and regular customers. Do the monthly view. Someone can only be counted once. So if they purchase twice in the same month, like if they make their first purchase and their second purchase in the same month, they will show as repeat, not as first time. Really important in the weeds when you're trying to analyze the numbers in depth. I actually just download the CSV. I download the CSV and I cut and paste into my own spreadsheet, and it automatically does all my boo calculations so I can understand how repeat buyers are growing year over year. Because as we discussed, your repeat rate could be going down, but your repeat buyers are going up if your first-time buyers are increasing faster than your repeat buyers, right? Which would be a good thing. That would be a good thing. Your repeat rate's going down, it's a good thing, but you would see your repeat buyers going up. Same quarter repeat. So repeat buyers year over year, that's just like, look, how many of my buyers this month, and you do it every month. You do it monthly because you want someone to appear. If they purchase once and then once 3 months later, you want them to appear on both cases. So you look at the monthly, you don't look at a larger time period. And so that person could be repeating anytime. That could be someone from a year ago repeating, right? Same quarter repeat. This is not a measure of how much repeat business you have coming in or what portion of your business is repeat. This is a measure of velocity. How good are we doing at getting someone to repeat the same quarter they make their first purchase? So what does it filter out? It filters out whales. It filters out people who are purchasing 4, 5, 6 times, right? We're only zeroing in on making a repeat buyer. And if your email retention program was focused on making second purchases, you'd have an awesome program. Everything else is kind of like window dressing, aside from making second purchases, because most buyers are first-time buyers. So making second purchases is the hugest bucket you can do. So it pulls out whales. If someone purchased and then purchased and then purchased and then purchased this month, they're not in that. It shows velocity of making repeat buyers in a short period of time. So this is more a measure of what's happening with your funnel right now. And to be specific, you could do a really good reactivation, really speak well to people 2-3 years ago, drive up your repeat buyers year over year. That would be a retention initiative, a customer retention initiative. But at the same time, you could have your same quarter repeat buyers going down, which would actually indicate that, like, maybe some problems with your site, with your current promotions, and it's being hidden by all the success you're having driving in old business. So how do you measure same quarter repeat? Go to your Shopify cohorts, set it to quarterly, and look at repeat. And it's going to say quarter 0. And then so you look at, say, 2025, quarter 0, it's going to be everybody from 2025 who repeated in the same quarter as their first purchase. Then you look at 2024, quarter 0. It's going to be everybody in 2024 who repeated the same quarter as they purchased. And look at the differential. Did you do better in 2025, or whatever time period? Did you do better in 2025 at having a high velocity funnel that makes a repeat buyer quickly, or did you do worse, right? And this, of course, is a leading indicator. The repeat buyers year over year that we discussed, that's a trailing indicator. All your retention work is bringing in, you've been doing all this work and you're bringing in all these repeat buyers finally. Okay, well, this same quarter repeat, it's like, okay, well, if this thing slows down, you're going to notice a slowing down of revenue and repeat metrics later on because right now, immediately you're doing a worse job of driving repeat buyers. This is especially critical for subscribe and save businesses because they really have a bulk of repeat buyers. They can really obscure what's happening with their immediate funnel. But if you don't get that immediate funnel right, your churn is going to overcome your new subscribers and your tanker is going to be turning in the wrong direction and will be very hard to turn back. So I always look at same quarter repeat, the absolute value and the year over year. So the absolute value, because it's like, well, if it's like 3%, well, that's pretty low. If it's 10 or 15, awesome, right? 3, third retention metric I follow. Monthly % of repeat buyers who had their most recent purchase greater than 95 days ago, right? It's a little wordy, but essentially, okay, someone repeats today. Was their most recent purchase before that, because they're a repeat buyer, was their most recent purchase within the last 95 days or more than 95 days ago? Okay, and 95, why 95? Well, because A quarter is like 92 or 93 days. It just depends on so it's like 95. You definitely have a whole quarter, right? And in my talk with the ads team, if they are trying to reactivate a buyer, they're done within 90 days. Just the way that, the cookies, the windows can be up to 180, but generally they don't. Every kind of media buyer I talk to is like, yeah, it starts getting pretty expensive after 90 days. I just drop it. So what this means is this metric is a measure of repeat business that's definitely outside the ads window. This repeat buyer, because we talked about repeat buyers year over year. Well, this is the stale repeat buyers. And so even more will this be influenced primarily by email and SMS. You can look back at a recent episode I did called Where Email Revenue Comes From, a dozen episodes ago, something like that. And I talk about 4 quadrants, measuring 4 quadrants of business every month. Recent first time, stale first time, recent repeat, stale repeat. This is one of those 4 quadrants, right? And it's generally 15% of a business's business. 75%, our average is actually, our benchmark across all accounts is like 74.8. It's like a solid 75%. A solid 75% of the business on an e-commerce company is recent prospects. They showed up, they filled out the form, they did whatever they did, and they bought within 30 days. Actually, we measure 35 to make sure it's a whole month. Okay, that's the biggest lion's share. Then you've got stale prospects, 5% of your business, and then the rest, the other 20% is split between recent repeat and stale repeat. So this is stale repeat. And this is a very important number because, again, we talked about you can reach really far back and bring a whole bunch of business in, drive up your domain revenue without driving up your ad expense, improve your marketing expense ratios, and unlock more money to spend in your business. This is a measure of how good you're doing at that. So if you have repeat buyers jacking up, look, it's great for repeat to jack up year over year, but those addresses, they're currently in play, right? A lot of people make their first repeat. You'd be surprised how many people repeat within the same month. Happens all the time. It is a bigger lift to have someone from 2 years ago repeat. So that's what this is a measure of. The absolute, again, it should be 10, 15%, something like that. And the year over year, are we doing a better job than we were last year at getting those stale addresses to repeat? Very powerful retention metric. Active repeat buyers. Okay, so we talked about customer base. This is actually the World's Best Email Retention Podcast, episode 16, where we discuss customer base and active repeat. Also, by the way, it was episode 65, where email revenue actually comes from, where I discuss that quadrant system of understanding buyers as far as like it's a retention metric for buyers, stale, recent, first time, repeat. And go to episode 16 to discuss customer base. Now, the metric that we're talking about here is active repeat buyers year over year. This is important. We're not looking at the absolute, we're looking at the share, right? So what portion of your active buyers are repeat? Okay? Now, how do we calculate active buyers? Active buyers are anyone who's purchased in the last 12 months. Again, go back to episode 16. We talk about this in depth. Large companies care very much about their customer base. They want to know, is my base growing? So your base is anyone who's purchased ever. And you should obviously calculate that. Do we have more customers? And how fast are our base growing? But your active base, everyone who's purchased in the last year, is a very important number. Some people would do last 2 years. It just depends on your business. But let's just say benchmark. How many people have purchased in the last year? That's your active base. And then within that active base, everybody in there has either purchased once ever, in which case they're an active first-time buyer, or they've purchased more than once ever. Could be 3 years ago, and once in the last year. Could be twice in the last year. They are active and they're repeat. This is your customer base. And so just like, the very immediate metric, like what's happening right now, is same quarter repeat. How are we doing it making someone repeat right away? So that's like a income statement. This one is like balance sheet. Okay, how many of these repeat buyers do we have right now? At the end of the year, after we did all of our stuff, do we have more repeat buyers than last year? And our active repeat as a share of all active, has that share gone up? Is a larger share of our base repeat? This one also shares a little bit of that zero-sum problem with repeat rate because if you do a bad job at driving first-time buyers, your share of repeat's going to go up. So we look at the share and we look at the year over year. Do we have more repeat than we had last year? Very important metric, right? And finally, the fifth of the retention metrics I follow on a regular basis is repeat buyers as a share of incremental buyers. This one's a little involved. It's a little involved. What you do, again, go to Shopify and just click on repeat rate, download a flat file of your customers, and it's going to show you every month. It's going to show you returning customers and total customers. Okay? And if someone's purchased twice, they're a returning customer. So if you take your total customers minus your returning customers, that's your first-time buyers that month. So you have your first time, your repeat, and your total for each month. If someone repeats 5 times, they're going to appear in 5 months, right? Someone only obviously appears as a first-time buyer once. If you just download that and add up your, say, I like to do half analyses. Half is long enough for us to really do a whole life cycle with somebody and really communicate with them. So let's say we're going to analyze H2, second half of 2025. You'd say, okay, how many first-time buyers do we have in H2 2025? How many first-time buyers do we have in H2 2024? How many repeat buyers did we have in H2 2025? How many repeat buyers do we have in H2 2024? And again, if someone repeats on 3 different months, they're going to appear 3 times, right? And then, of course, you add those up and you have how many total buyers we had in H2 2025 and how many total buyers do we have in H2 2024, okay? So when you you subtract 2024 from 2025, and that's your incremental for each of those. So how many more first-time buyers, how many more repeat buyers, how many more total buyers, okay? The number of more repeat buyers divided by the number of more total buyers is your repeat share of incremental buyers, okay? So when we look at our incremental business, how much of that incremental business is from repeat buyers and how much of that incremental business is from first-time buyers? And this is like, I list this as the last one because it's like, this is the mother lode. All the stuff we just talked about, just bringing in more raw first-time buyers year over year, speeding up at how fast we're making someone a repeat buyer, which just really front-end loads your kind of active repeat buyers as a share of total business, right? How good we are at reaching really far back, which also bumps active repeat share of business. All that stuff you're doing, it all gets encapsulated in this one interesting master metric, which you will not see in any system. I mean, in fact, most of these metrics I've said here, they're not in any systems. Triple Whale has some retention metrics that are kind of cool, right? You do get the cohorts. Those are a strong cohort in Shopify. But most of this stuff, you don't see it anywhere because all these systems are made by advertisers for advertisers. So it's all very advertising focused. But what can happen with repeat buyers as a share of incremental buyers? It is possible for that to be more than 50% and have, your repeat rate like 20%, right? Now, again, I don't like repeat rate, but I'm sure everyone here is familiar with the repeat rate in Shopify. So how would you have repeat rate 20% and have repeat buyers be greater than 50% of your incremental year-over-year buyers? How would that happen? Well, let's say your first-time buyers are up 5% year-over-year, and your repeat rate went from 10% to 20%. You're going to have way more incremental repeat buyers than incremental first-time buyers, right? This happens all the time. You fire up a high-quality, performance-focused email program that gets in the inbox. It gets the inboxing placement that you need. It integrates SMS. You bookend your promotions, VIP, hey, last chance. You really reach out to everybody, and you have good emails. Your emails are shoppable landing pages that will show people recommendations based on where they are in the purchase lifecycle and their lifecycle with you. You just a really powerful program that's made to drive business. Okay, if you turn that on an account that is kind of like your email program is like, very often, if you don't have a very high growth rate from acquisitions, at least for a period of time, retention will be a greater share of your incremental business. Translation: customer retention will be driving your business, not acquisitions. Now, after a year, it becomes tough because the retention program is fighting against itself. It already got the easy gains. It already got the easy comparables. But a good measure of your retention program is in that first year before you're competing against yourself. Look, does this measure get above 50%? Or if that's not really possible because you are on a really high growth trajectory, does this end up being twice your repeat rate? Oh, our repeat rate is 15%, but repeat is 30% of incremental. Like, okay, wow, this program is really doing its job. So that fifth one, okay, it's involved, but more than any metric that I follow, that one truly explains whether or not your retention metrics make a difference. Because, okay, repeat buyers are up year over year. Okay, cool. Right? So what? Okay, we are doing a better job at driving second purchase in the first quarter. We know that's a leading indicator to better customer base down the line, et cetera, et cetera. But okay, so what? Oh, half of our incremental buyers are repeat. Okay, clearly this is working, right? And you would not see that in the repeat rate. In fact, in our scenario, you go from repeat rate 10 to 20, and it's like, well, okay, it's still only 20% of our business, right? That would be totally hidden. It's like, yeah, 20% of your business, but it's more than half. In the scenario we did, it's like 2/3 of your incremental growth is repeat. Very important metric. All right, so that was a cute little chat about the 5 retention metrics I follow and the one that I don't. Entrepreneurs, executives, spammers, and webmasters, have fun spamming.
In the inbox late night, glowing screens see the light. Email, everything feels alright.
Hey entrepreneurs and spammers, remember, you can't scale without email, and the cheapest customer to acquire is the customer you already have. So please subscribe to the world's best email and retention podcast and learn how to make low-cost revenue a big part of your digital ecosystem.